Okay, so welcome to today's presentation. Today we'll be discussing a bit on why marriages fail. The statistics, at least in civilized world, is that the marriages have about 50% success rates. That means for every two persons one person will not succeed maritally, the other person would. That sounds quite bleak, very bleak matter of fact. And the statistics is gradually creeping on us. And the truth is, marriage was not designed to carry all the weight, all the loads that is being placed on it. It's just one of the advantages, one of the blessings that God gives us, a wonderful blessing at that. But it's not the summit, it's not the end and be it all. I'm pro marriage and marriage, and I'm married and I'm everything for marriage working, but it's just like an high up now for married persons and persons who are hoping to marry, that there are some needs that you should meet somewhere else. It would be unfair for you to place that burden on your spouse because they can never deliver such needs. Now, if we start with the book of Genesis, God said, and I will make a helpmate for him, suitable to him. So the helpmate is needed for somebody who is doing something or someone who will be doing something. Now bear in mind, when the Lord made Adam, he said male and female made he them. So when Adam was Adam, before Eve was made out of Adam, both Eve and Adam were in Adam. Because when he said male and female made Adam, it means there were two entities in that individual named Adam then. Now why did I back step a bit? You would observe that by the time there was a need to carve out Eve out of Adam, both of them, in the personhood of Adam in this case, had been doing a lot of assignments. Adam was given the responsibility of naming all the animals. Of course, when he was done naming all the animals, and the Bible then said, but for Adam there was not found a helpmate suitable for him. And then God decided to literally, if I can use that word, split Adam into two and make one half Eve and make the other half Adam. What does this then mean? These two individuals started their life first with a relationship with God, and then two, with purpose, and three, with being actively engaged. The truth is, these are questions we must solve ourselves. These are needs that we cannot place and sit on marriage to be able to define God for us, to be able to help us meet God and know God, to be able to find purpose for us, to be able to make us actively engaged. That will be a lot of burden on such a marriage. Such marriage will likely capsize. The truth is, in life we will have three relationships. The first is with God. The Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, the first four words says, in the beginning God. In the beginning of your life is God. Your relationship with God should be the priority before the marriage. If the marriage is a priority before your relationship with God, that marriage will be strained. It will likely not hold when the storms come. And it's only when we have built this consistent, fervent relationship with God by prayer, by worship, by devotion, it's only then that we can then come to the second relationship. The second most important relationship is a relationship with yourself. When Jesus summarized the 10 commandments and said the first one, love the Lord your God, second one, love your neighbor as yourself. If I'm going to come to love my neighbor, I have to love myself. So my second most important relationship is my relationship with myself. I must love myself. I must come, by virtue of my relationship with God, begin to decipher purpose. I may not know it all, but at least I'm getting close to it. I have a clue of where my what life is headed. I love myself enough to be willing to work on my inadequacies, to be willing to be better for me, not for my spouse, to be willing to to grow for me, not for my spouse. Whatever my spouse gets, is an addendum of the me that I have come to love first. This is not in a selfish way. This is just because whatever love you have for others is hinged on how well you have first loved yourself. If you have not first loved yourself, the truth is, chances are, whatever love you think you're offering to other people is a facade. There's something incomplete, there's something inadequate about it. So, number one, loving God, knowing God, that's your first relationship. Number two, loving you, knowing you, seeing to it that you become the best version of who God has called you to be. Number three now is your relationship with others. Of course, in this case now we would square it on marriage. Your relationship with your spouse is a testament of your relationship with your God and then with yourself. If the first two are broken, your marital relationship would also be questionable, would be struggling on many levels. Marriage is not designed to fulfill our need for God. You know, I think St. Augustine, one of the Catholic saints, said there's a God-sized or God-shaped void in every one of us. So a void the size of God, a void the shape of God. Marriage is too fickle to fill into such a void. So it will always leave such an individual wanting, inadequate, unsatisfied. And what betide the spouse who tries to fill such a void is just not possible. So the entirety of our purpose is not squared or hinged on marriage. If marriage was the summit of what we come to the earth to do, I want to believe probably Jesus would have married. So then, find God, find you, find purpose, and bring all of this to the table, to the marital table. And then if you're already married and you have not found these first three, let them be your number one priority until you show you have found them, or at least you are in that direction. Now, picture Anna the prophetess, the woman who was in the temple that was fasting, praying and fasting for decades before Jesus came. She was widowed at a very young age. I think Bible scholars will say in the early 20s or as a late teen. If marriage was the summit, she would have chosen to be remarried again. But then she stayed in the temple and worshipped God and prayed and fasted until the Messiah came, which was Jesus. Or is it Deborah you want to talk about? She was referred to as the wife of Lapidoth. So she had a marriage. And in fact, I want to believe she was also probably a very submissive woman for them to have described her as the wife of another person. If she was a woman who was a troublemaker, perhaps the Bible would not have described her as the wife of whoever she was. But then Deborah was a woman soldier. She sat under the three and judged the Israelites. She was one of the judges in Israel. Meaning there's purpose more than marriage. Or is it Esther you want to say? Esther that was married to Ahasuerus, that the salvation of the Jews was dependent on her at a particular point in time. It was more than being married. She could have just said, now I'm married, I'm a young queen, all I have to do now is enjoy my life. She had more purpose than that. So marriage is not the end and the be-all of our existence in life. I could go on and on like that. Now, another thing is, many times, so if either we're trying to use marriage to fill the void that only God can fill, or we're trying to use marriage to define our purpose, the very reason why God sent us into this earth. Marriage is supposed to be that avenue where we can find help for our God-given purpose and for our pilgrimage on this earth, so that we're not walking alone. But then sometimes we expect again that all of our emotional needs should be met in marriage. It's not possible. Such a spouse is painfully set up for failure. And he or she, if he willingly takes up such a responsibility, would always be left feeling inadequate, because you can never make her happy and you can never make him feel good enough about himself. That then means that you should have godly friends in your life. You should have godly passions in your life, things that you do to unwind, to make you feel good, to make you feel happy. You should have your safe space that you run to when life is overwhelming. Fine, you can share with your spouse, but you can also share with God, and you can journal. And if it gets too overwhelming, you can find a therapist or find a godly friend you can speak to. Marriage cannot bear the burden of your entire emotional need. Again, another mistake we make is that we expect that marriage should heal all of our unresolved trauma and pain. In marriage, there will be a lot of friction. And I want to believe that God uses that friction for two purposes: to smoothen out the vices in us, and then to enlarge our capacities so that we build virtues. Virtues of patience, of tolerance, of kindness, of acceptance, of hospitality, of so many things, because really marriage will try all of the vices. But the thing is, when we come into marriage with the baggage of trauma, pain, unhealed wounds, and all of those things, those frictions will happen. But those frictions will be bruising on unhealed scars. So marriage will trigger you more than any other relationship. And when you have many wounds that are unhealed and they are deep-seated, you just find that you're bleeding all over everybody. So is it that you are spiky and you're wounding people, or you have a wall of sadness, of rigidity, of frigidness? There's just that wall where your partner cannot reach you, your spouse cannot reach you, in-laws cannot reach you, and a number of other spectrums of issue. So you find such an individual bleeding all over their marriage, and their marriage does not work. They even bleed on their own children. Children will then be victims of unhealed childhood trauma that their parents will carry. They bleed onto their in-laws, they bleed onto the spouse's friend, and then on it goes. So people who did not cut you, you end up bleeding on them. Why? Because we did not heal. We did not take time to heal unhealed wounds, unhealed trauma. Now I understand some people would have some of these telltale signs without being aware that they were traumatized, because that could be a novel term for someone, but for some people. But the truth is, by the time you see a lot of things are not working, get on your knees and cry to God. Ask Him what is going on, and I tell you, He will tell you. So then it could be that you are looking for books to read to find healing. You're seeking a therapist. If you experience significant trauma, by all means, seek out a therapy. That could be physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, and a number of other things that happen from in our family of origin. Seek it out. Seek out someone to help you work with it. Seek a godly therapist, because chances are you'll bleed all over people. It will just become it may be calm and seem as though nothing is happening, because life has not demanded a lot from you. But by the time you get into marriage and then responsibilities begin to be demanded of you, life is demanding, then you find that there are places where you have not healed. And then God cannot stretch you in those places because it's all scarred. And there are places where you have not healed, and then God cannot apply friction on those places because it's all scarred. So by all means, see to it that you work on your trauma, on your past hurts, on your past issues. You know why we do medical checkup before marriage? Check for genotype, check for viruses, and a number of things. One thing I personally always recommend is psychological testing, because then you will begin to see patterns. You will begin to see belief systems. You will begin to understand mental constructs that you will know that can negotiate this couple out of a godly marriage. So by all means, if you are married, well, and you begin to identify something is going on, begin to work on it. If you're not married, please see to it that both of you undergo psychological testing, and if need be, begins to do trauma therapy, and just begin to understand yourself. Coaching, you name it, whatever it is, before you enter this wonderful, wonderful institution of marriage. It could be wonderful, really. It could be wonderful. It could be a taste of heaven and earth when it's done right. But when it's not, it is hell on earth. And a lot of preparation, a lot of awareness could prevent many of the misery that people would otherwise have gone through. Again, sometimes we use marriage to feel that fulfillment that comes from being gainfully employed or gainfully deployed. There's a difference. Gainfully employed, you work for someone. There's that satisfaction that comes from knowing that my life is impactful. I'm utilizing the giftings and the talents and the graces of God upon my life. For instance, maybe as I am a teacher who is passionate about teaching, if I'm gainfully employed in a place that rewards my efforts, no, there's a fulfillment in that marriage cannot fill. And then there are those who are gainfully deployed, maybe those who are in the ministry, or someone who has the responsibility and the burden of raising the next generation of God's arsenals, God's generals, God's point men and point women in the coming generation. And that person has the responsibility of being a full-time housewife. That again on its own, it's a major work that many times people just look down on without regarding such women. But it's for such a woman to then find that I am gainfully deployed because I am doing a great work. I am fostering the greatness of the next generation, and not be waiting for the husband to validate or to tell her she's doing it, she's good enough, she's worth something, and then compare herself to other women who are working. That will not work. Your worth, your validation, your identity comes from God, because it is God who shows you who you are and then shows you how much He loves you, and then you learn to love yourself in the light of God's love. There's no man that can define your worth and make you feel good enough if you have not learned to feel good enough in the light of the love and the overwhelming devotion of Christ on you. So marriage cannot fulfill that need to be gainfully employed or gainfully deployed. Neither can marriage fulfill our need for worth, for esteem, for identity, for so many other things that we painfully place on marriage. Marriage can at best hard to eat. Yeah, hard to eat, but it can be the defining factor. It can be the deciding factor. The truth is, it's dangerous to let another person love you more than you love yourself. The only person who is not a person, who is God, that can love you more than you love yourself is God. No one else. And then you learn to love yourself, learn to value yourself, learn to see yourself as God sees you. You know, Yoruba people say, "Omo bani mi kiri." I will not. Omo bani mi le rin. Láàrin mi dànsákì ọba lára mi. Now, a child of a royal child who does not know that he or she is royal will be in a very pathetic situation. But if such a child comes home and allows his or her father to tell him or her his worth, his identity, his value, his purpose, the graces and the giftings he has placed on his or her life, that child learns to see himself in a better light, learns to accept herself in a better light, and then the outflow of that can then flow to other people, can flow to your marriage, can flow to your children, can flow to so many other things. So, summarily, the burdens that we place on marriage could be re-examined. If we re-examine it, I want to believe no marriages will last. And then the three most important relationships in our life is one with God, one with ourselves, and then one with God, and the third with others. It's only when we get this order right that we can say that our marriages can begin to thrive, and then we can have a template, a godly template to hand over to the next generation. So thank you for staying with me. I wish you a wonderful, wonderful day. And I pray that God will continue to establish and preserve our homes in Jesus' name. Thank you very much. Bye.